The colony ship horizon drifted through a field of broken metal and fire. All around it, the remains of human warships floated in the darkness of space. Some still burned. Others were just empty shells now, torn apart by weapons that humans could not understand. Admiral Day stood on the bridge and watched the destruction through the main window. His uniform was dirty and his face was tired. Behind him, what remained of humanity's fleet waited for orders. 12 ships. That was all. 12 ships carrying the last 200,000 humans in the universe. The war with the Vel Dominion had lasted 3 years. Humanity had lost. A sound came from the communication station. Lieutenant Hannah looked up from her screen with wide eyes. She was young, barely 25, but she had seen more death in 3 years than most people saw in a lifetime. "Admiral," she said, "we are receiving a transmission. It is from the Vel flagship." They turned slowly. "What do they want? To watch us surrender?" "They want to negotiate, sir." The bridge went quiet. The Vel did not negotiate. Everyone knew this. They conquered. They destroyed. They did not talk. "Put it through," they said. The main screen flickered and then showed a face that was not human. High Commander Roken of the Vel Dominion had gray skin that looked like stone. His eyes were black and empty like deep holes. When he spoke, his voice was cold and flat. "Admiral Day of the human species," Roken said, "your fleet is broken. Your worlds are ash. You have nothing left but these few ships and the lives inside them. By all rights of war, I should destroy you now." They said nothing. There was nothing to say. "But," Roken continued, "the Vel are not without honor. We follow the old ways, the sacred traditions of our ancestors." He paused. "We offer you the trial of worth." Hannah quickly searched the term in the ship's database. Her face went pale as she read. "It is simple," Roken explained. "You will send us one representative. This representative will face our champion in a trial on a sacred world. If your representative wins, your species will be spared. You will serve us, yes, but you will live. If your representative loses, we will destroy every last human. No survivors. No mercy." Admiral Day felt something cold move through his chest. "And who must this representative be?" Roken's thin lips curved into something like a smile. "Our sacred texts are clear. The representative must be one who has not yet chosen their path. One whose future is still unwritten." His black eyes seemed to grow darker. "You must send us a child." The bridge erupted in angry voices. Officers shouted that this was madness, that it was cruel, that they would rather die fighting. But Day raised his hand and silence fell. "If we refuse?" he asked. "Then you all die. Today. Now. There is no other choice." The transmission ended. For 3 days, the human fleet argued. Some said they should fight and die with honor. Others said any chance was better than no chance. In the end, they held a lottery. Every child between the ages of 10 and 14 was entered. It was the fairest way anyone could think of, and also the most terrible. The name that came out was Tay. He was 12 years old. His mother, Yuna, was a biologist on the horizon. When she heard the news, she screamed until her voice broke. She held her son and begged the universe to take her instead. But Tay did not cry. He sat quietly in his mother's arms and looked at the wall. When she finally let him go, he stood up and straightened his shirt. "I will go," he said. His voice was small but steady. "If I do not go, everyone dies. You die, Mother. I do not want that." Admiral Day came to see the boy before the transfer. He expected to find a frightened child. Instead, he found Tay sitting on his bed, packing a small bag. Next to him was a cage with a strange animal inside. "What is that?" they asked. "This is Baduk," Tay said. "He is a honey badger. My mother brought him from Earth before we left. He is my friend." Baduk was small, about the size of a large cat. He had thick black and white fur and small dark eyes that seemed to look at everything with suspicion and anger. When Day leaned closer, the animal growled low in its throat. "You cannot bring a pet to a death trial," Day said gently. "Then I will not go." Day stared at the boy. There was something in Tay's eyes that he had not expected. It was not fear. It was not courage. It was simply certainty. This child would not leave without his animal. When the Vel shuttle came to collect Tay, they scanned Baduk with their devices. War Priestess Sira looked at the readings and laughed. The sound was sharp and unpleasant. "It is just vermin," she said. "A small, weak creature with no value. Let the human child bring his toy. It will make no difference." The other Vel laughed too. They looked at the small boy and his small animal and saw nothing dangerous. Nothing important. Just another weak human and his even weaker pet. As the shuttle door closed, Yuna pressed her hand against the window. Tay pressed his hand against the glass from inside. Baduk sat in his lap, watching the Vel soldiers with those angry little eyes. On the command ship, Sira watched the shuttle fly away. For just a moment, she felt something strange. A cold feeling in her stomach. A whisper of doubt. But she pushed it away. It was nothing. Just superstition. After all, what could one human child and a piece of earth vermin possibly do against the might of the Vel Dominion? She would soon find out. The Vel shuttle dropped Tay on the surface of Kethra 7 just as the sun was setting. The door opened and he was pushed out onto wet ground. Before he could turn around, the shuttle was already rising back into the orange sky. He was alone. Well, not completely alone. Baduk sat at his feet, sniffing the strange air with his small black nose. Kethra 7 was a death world. The Vel used it to test their warriors. The jungle around Tay was thick and dark, filled with twisted trees that seemed to reach for him with their branches. Strange sounds came from everywhere. Screams and growls and wet, clicking noises that made his skin feel cold. Somewhere on this planet, a Vel champion named Jorel was also beginning the trial. They both had 3 days to reach the Temple of Reckoning at the center of the continent. Whoever arrived first and survived the final test would win. Tay looked down at Baduk. "I guess we should start walking." The honey badger did not respond. He just started moving into the jungle, his low body pushing through the thick plants. Tay followed. The first night was the worst. Tay found a space between 2 large roots and tried to rest. But rest would not come. Every sound made him jump. Every shadow looked like a monster. He held Baduk close to his chest and tried not to shake. Then the real monster came. It moved out of the darkness, like a nightmare-given flesh. 6 legs, too many eyes. A mouth full of teeth that curved backward like hooks. It was a stalker beast, one of Kethra 7's many predators. And it had found Tay. Tay could not move. His body was frozen with fear. He wanted to run, but his legs would not listen. The stalker beast came closer. Its breath was hot and smelled like rotten meat. Then Baduk moved. The honey badger exploded from Tay's arms like a small furry bomb. He hit the stalker beast's face with his claws and teeth, biting and scratching at its eyes. The beast screamed and tried to shake him off, but Baduk would not let go. He bit harder. He clawed deeper. The stalker beast was 10 times Baduk's size. It should have killed him in seconds. But something was wrong. No matter how hard it tried, it could not get a good grip on the honey badger. Baduk's loose skin twisted and moved, making the beast's teeth slide away from anything important. After a minute that felt like an hour, the stalker beast gave up. It ran back into the darkness, bleeding from a dozen wounds on its face. Baduk dropped to the ground, shook himself, and walked back to Tay like nothing had happened. Tay stared at his small friend. "How did you do that?" Baduk just curled up in his lap and went to sleep. Far above, on the Vel command ship, High Commander Roken watched the scene through drone cameras. His black eyes narrowed. "What is that creature?" he asked. General Tovik checked the readings. Earth designation: honey badger. Small mammal. No apparent threat level. Our scans showed it has no venom, no special strength, nothing remarkable. Yet it just drove off a stalker beast. Tovik said nothing. He had no explanation. The next day, Tay learned to follow Baduk's lead. The honey badger seemed to know things that Tay did not. He found water when Tay was thirsty. He dug up grubs and roots that were safe to eat. When Tay walked toward a beautiful flower, Baduk bit his ankle and pulled him away. Later, Tay saw another creature touch that same flower and die screaming. "Thank you," Tay whispered. Baduk ignored him and kept walking. On the second day, something bit Tay's arm. It was a small insect, barely visible, but its venom was strong. Within an hour, Tay was burning with fever. He fell to the ground and could not get up. His vision became blurry. His body shook. He thought he was going to die, but Baduk did not leave him. The honey badger curled up against Tay's chest and stayed there through the night. His small body was warm. Somehow, that warmth. By morning, the fever had broken. Tay was weak, but alive. "Why do you stay with me?" Tay asked, his voice rough and dry. Baduk looked at him with those angry little eyes. Then he licked Tay's face once and started walking again. Meanwhile, the Vel champion Jorl was making good progress. He moved through the jungle with trained efficiency, avoiding all dangers, conserving his energy. He did not fight unless he had to. He did not take risks. He followed his training exactly, but something was bothering him. He had seen the drone footage of the human child and his small creature. He had watched the honey badger fight the stalker beast. Something about it made him feel strange. He had trained his whole life to be a warrior. He was strong and fast and skilled, but he had never seen anything fight like that small earth animal. It had no fear. None at all. It was like the concept did not exist in its mind. On the Vel command ship, War Priestess Sira studied reports about earth animals. What she found made her feel cold. Honey badgers were not special on Earth. There were many creatures like them. Wolverines that fought bears. Cats that chased away lions. Dogs that died protecting their human families. Earth was full of small, angry things that refused to accept when they were supposed to lose. Curious, she said to herself. Most curious. On the second night, Tay and Baduk reached a clearing. The Temple of Reckoning was visible in the distance now, maybe half a day's walk away. Tay allowed himself to feel hope. Then he heard the sound. It came from the trees to his left. A deep rumbling growl that made the ground vibrate. The plants around him went silent. Even the insects stopped making noise. From the shadows came the largest creature Tay had ever seen. It was called a maw beast in the Vel records. It had killed over 40 Vel champions across hundreds of trials. It was the most dangerous thing on KETH Ross-7. And now it was looking at Tay. The boy took a step back. Then another. His whole body told him to run, but Baduk did not run. The small honey badger walked forward, putting himself between Tay and the monster. His fur stood up along his spine. His lips pulled back to show his teeth. A low, dangerous sound came from his throat. The maw beast was 100 times his size. It had killed creatures far bigger and stronger than any honey badger. Baduk did not care. He was not going to run. He was not going to hide. He was going to fight, because that was what honey badgers did. The maw beast charged. It moved faster than something so large should be able to move. Its massive jaws opened wide enough to swallow Baduk whole. Its claws tore through the ground like knives through paper. Baduk charged back. The honey badger was a small, dark shape moving across the clearing. He did not run away. He did not try to hide. He ran directly at the monster with every bit of speed his short legs could give him. They met in the middle. The maw beast's jaws closed around Baduk's body. Any other creature would have died in that moment. The teeth were long and sharp and meant to kill quickly. But Baduk twisted inside the beast's mouth. His loose skin moved and shifted, keeping the teeth away from his organs. Before the maw beast could bite down harder, Baduk sank his own teeth into the soft flesh of its tongue. The maw beast screamed and threw its head back. Baduk flew through the air and hit a tree hard enough to crack the bark. He fell to the ground and did not move. Tay screamed his friend's name. Then Baduk got up. He was bleeding from several wounds. One of his legs was not moving right, but his eyes were the same as always. Angry, focused. Ready. He attacked again. On the Vel command ship, every officer had stopped working. They were all watching the screens. High Commander Roken stood perfectly still, his black eyes fixed on the impossible scene below. The small earth creature was fighting a maw beast, and it was not losing. Baduk climbed up the monster's leg, biting and clawing as he went. The maw beast swung its massive head down and caught him with its teeth again. Again, Baduk twisted free before real damage could be done. He bit the beast's eye. It roared in pain and threw him away. Again, Baduk got up. Again, he attacked. How is this possible? General Tovik whispered. It should be dead. War Priestess Sira pulled up the biological data she had gathered on honey badgers. Her voice was quiet as she read. Their skin is extremely thick and loose. Predator teeth cannot easily reach vital organs. They have a natural resistance to most venoms. Their aggression response is unusual. Unusual how? Roken demanded. The creatures do not experience fear the way other animals do. Their brains are different. When faced with a larger enemy, most animals will eventually run or submit. Honey badgers do not. They cannot. It is not in their nature. On the screen, Baduk was thrown to the ground again. He was covered in blood now, some his own and some from the maw beast. One of his eyes was swollen shut. Several of his claws were broken. He got up. He attacked. The maw beast was confused. It had killed many things in its life. Strong things. Fast things. Smart things. But it had never faced anything like this. Every time it hurt the small creature hurt it back. Every time it threw the small creature away, the small creature returned. There was no victory. There was no end. There was only pain. For the first time in its life, the maw beast felt something it did not understand. Doubt. On the human ship horizon, Admiral Day and Lieutenant Hana watched with tears in their eyes. They had thought Tay would die quickly on the Death World. They had prepared themselves to watch humanity's hope be destroyed. Instead, they watched a honey badger refuse to die. Sir, Hana said, her voice shaking. Do you see this? Day nodded slowly. I see it. I do not believe it. But I see it. 20 minutes into the fight, something changed. The maw beast was tired. It was bleeding from dozens of wounds on its face, its legs, its underbelly. The small creature had bitten and clawed every part of it that could be reached. The pain was constant and maddening. It tried to run. Baduk did not let it. The honey badger caught up to the retreating monster and climbed up its back leg. He pulled himself up onto its spine, his broken claws finding grip in the thick hide. The maw beast tried to shake him off, but it was too tired, too hurt, too confused. Baduk reached the beast's throat. His jaws closed around the soft flesh below its jaw. He bit down with everything he had left. The maw beast made one final sound, a sad and surprised whimper. Then it fell. The ground shook when it hit. Baduk climbed off the dead monster and limped back to Tay. The boy was crying. He had been crying the whole time. He scooped up the bloody honey badger and held him close. "You stupid animal," Tay sobbed. "You stupid, stupid brave animal." Baduk licked his face once and closed his eyes. On the Vel command ship, there was complete silence. No one knew what to say. A creature the size of a small dog had just killed the most dangerous predator on their sacred trial world. It had done what their greatest warriors had failed to do. And it had done it for no reason except to protect one human child. General Tovik turned to Roken. His face was pale. "Aye, Commander. If their vermin fight like this..." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Roken did not respond. He just stared at the screen. War Priestess Sira was reading more reports. Her hands were shaking slightly. Earth has thousands of species with similar behavioral patterns. Dogs that die protecting their families. Mothers of many species that fight to the death for their young. Even humans themselves have documented cases of parents lifting vehicles to save trapped children. They call it love. The word sounded strange in our mouth. The Vel did not have a word like it. What have we done? Tovik whispered. No one answered. On the surface of Kethru 7, Tay carried Baduk through the night. The honey badger was badly hurt, but he was alive. His breathing was steady. His heart was strong. By dawn, they reached the Temple of Reckoning. Tay climbed the ancient stone steps and passed through the great doors. He was the first to arrive. Behind him, maybe an hour away, the Vel champion Jorel was approaching. He had heard the maw beast's death scream in the night. He had seen the body as he passed. He had seen the small bite marks on its throat as he walked toward the temple. Jorel thought about honor. He thought about strength. He thought about everything his people had taught him about what made a warrior great. Then, he thought about a small earth animal that had killed a monster for no reason except love, and he began to doubt everything he knew. The Temple of Reckoning was old, older than the Vel Dominion itself. Its walls were covered with carvings of ancient trials, ancient champions, ancient victories. Thousands of years of history looked down at Tay as he stood in the center of the arena. Baduk lay in his arms, wrapped in a piece of cloth torn from Tay's shirt. The honey badger was awake now, but weak. His wounds had been cleaned as best as Tay could manage. He would survive. He was too stubborn not to. The great doors of the temple opened again. Jorel walked in. The Vel champion was tall and strong, with the gray stone-like skin of his people. He wore light armor and carried a curved blade at his side. His training had prepared him for this moment his entire life. He was ready. But when he looked at Tay, he did not see an enemy. He saw a tired child holding an injured animal. He saw dark circles under young eyes. He saw hands that shook slightly from exhaustion and fear. Above them, drones floated silently, sending images back to both the Vel fleet and the human fleet. Everyone was watching. The fate of humanity would be decided in the next few minutes. War Priestess Sira's voice echoed through the temple from hidden speakers. The final trial begins. Combat will continue until one champion submits or dies. Human representative, prepare yourself. Tay did not move. Jorel drew his blade. The metal sang as it left the sheath. He stepped forward, ready to end this quickly and cleanly. He did not want to hurt the child more than necessary. But Tay did not stand. He did not raise his fists. He did not try to run. He sat down, right there, in the middle of the arena. The 12-year-old boy sat down on the stone floor. He placed Baduk gently in his lap and looked up at the Vel warrior. "I am not going to fight you," Tay said. Jorel stopped. "What? I will not fight. I did not want to hurt you." I do not want you to hurt me, so I will not fight." The temple was silent. On the Vel command ship, Roken leaned forward, his black eyes burning with anger. "What is this? What game is the human playing?" Sira's voice came through the speakers again. "Human representative, you must fight or you forfeit. If you forfeit, your species dies. Do you understand?" "I understand," Tay said. His voice was calm. "But I still will not fight." "Why?" Jorl asked. He was confused. Nothing in his training had prepared him for this. Tay looked up at the young Vel warrior. "Your people wanted to see what humans are worth. You wanted to test us, to judge us, but you only wanted to see if we could kill things. That is not what makes humans special." He stroked Baduk's fur gently. The honey badger made a small sound, almost like a purr. Baduk did not fight the Maulbeast because he wanted to win. He did not fight because he wanted glory or honor. He fought because he loves me. He would die for me, and I would die for him. That is what humans are. That is what we value. We love things. We protect things. We do not throw our children into arenas to be killed for entertainment. Tay looked directly at the drone cameras. He knew his mother was watching. He knew Admiral Day was watching. He knew all of humanity was watching. If refusing to fight makes us unworthy in your eyes, then your idea of worth means nothing. Kill us all if you want. But I will not become a murderer to save my people. That is not who we are." Silence filled the temple. On the Vel command ship, officers looked at each other with uncertain expressions. Roken's hands were clenched so tight his gray skin was cracking, but Sira was watching. Jorl, the young champion, had not moved since Tay sat down. His blade was still in his hand, but it hung at his side. Something was happening in his eyes. Jorl thought about his training. He thought about honor and strength and victory. He thought about everything the Vel believed made a warrior great. Then he thought about Baduk. He thought about a small creature, wounded and bleeding, that had killed a monster not for glory but for love. He thought about the child in front of him, who would rather die than betray his nature. And Jorl realized something. He had been taught that worth came from strength. From winning, from crushing enemies and proving dominance. But looking at this human child, he saw a different kind of strength. A strength that did not need violence. A strength that came from simply refusing to become something you were not. The Vel had been powerful for thousands of years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had destroyed countless species. But in all that time, had they ever shown courage like this? Had any Vel ever been willing to die rather than abandon their principles? Jorl did not think so. He put his blade back in its sheath. "I declare the human representative the victor," he said. His voice was loud and clear. Not through combat, but through worth. He has shown more honor in his surrender than I have seen in 1,000 Vel victories. The temple erupted. On the Vel command ship, Roken screamed in rage. "This trial is void. The human did not win. Kill them both." But Sira stood up. Her voice cut through the chaos like a blade. "The trial is valid. The sacred law is clear. A champion may concede victory if they believe their opponent has shown greater worth. Jorl has spoken. The law is fulfilled. I am the High Commander." Roken shouted. "I decide what is valid." "You are not greater than the sacred law," Sira said coldly. "No one is. Not even you. The gods have witnessed this trial. The human child has won." Roken turned to his officers. "Destroy the human fleet, now," I commanded. Some officers moved to obey, but others hesitated. They had watched the trial. They had seen the honey badger's impossible fight. They had heard the human child's words. Something had changed inside them. General Tovik did not move. "I will not give that order, High Commander. The law is the law. then you are a traitor. Perhaps, Tovik said quietly. Or perhaps you are the traitor. Traitor to everything our ancestors believed in. On the human ship Horizon, Admiral Day watched in amazement as the Vel fleet began to break apart. Some ships moved to attack the human fleet. Others moved to defend it. Vel fought Vel as the sacred law tore their unity apart. What is happening? Hannah whispered. Day shook his head slowly. I think a 12-year-old boy just started a civil war. In the Temple of Reckoning, Tay remained sitting on the floor. He did not know what was happening in space above him. He only knew that Jorl had put away his blade, that the fighting was over, that he was still alive. Baduk opened one eye and looked up at him. We did it, Tay whispered. We actually did it. The honey badger yawned, showing his worn teeth, and went back to sleep. Outside, the universe was changing. The Vel Dominion had stood for 3,000 years. It had conquered 200 worlds. It had destroyed 15 intelligent species. It was the greatest power in the known galaxy. It fell apart in 6 months. The Civil War began in space above Kethru 7, but it did not end there. News of the trial spread across every Vel world. People watched footage of a 12-year-old human boy refusing to fight. They watched a small earth animal kill a maw beast. They heard Tay's words about love and worth and what it really meant to be strong. For many Vel, something changed. The lower castes of Vel society had always been taught that they were weak, that they existed only to serve the warriors and commanders above them. That strength was everything, and those without it deserved nothing. But if a small human child could defy the entire Dominion through sheer moral courage, if a tiny creature called a honey badger could kill the most dangerous predator on a death world through nothing but love and stubbornness, then perhaps the Vel had been wrong about strength all along. Rebellions started on a dozen colony worlds. Not violent rebellions. The rebels simply sat down, like Tay had sat down, and refused to participate in a system they no longer believed in. They called it the sitting resistance. The Dominion did not know how to fight it. High Commander Roken tried to hold his empire together. He ordered executions. He sent warships to crush the rebellions. But every act of violence only made more people turn against him. The image of the human child and his honey badger had become a symbol that could not be destroyed. While the Vel Empire burned, Admiral Day moved the human fleet to safety. Lieutenant Hana coordinated the escape, using the chaos of the Civil War as cover. They traveled to the outer rim of the galaxy, far from Vel space, and found a world where they could finally rest. Tay and Baduk were retrieved from Kethro 7 by a shuttle that Sira herself sent. The War Priestess had chosen her side. She believed in the sacred laws, and those laws said that humanity had proved its worth. Yuna was waiting when the shuttle arrived at the horizon. She ran to her son and held him so tight that Tay thought his bones might break. She was crying. She had not stopped crying for 3 days. You are never leaving my side again, she said through her tears. I know, Mother, Tay said. He was crying too. I know. Baduk sat between them, his wounds bandaged, his spirit unbroken. He looked annoyed by all the human emotion, but he allowed Yuna to pet him. Just this once. 3 months after the trial, Roken was executed by his own officers. General Tovik had gathered enough support to challenge him directly. The trial was quick. Roken had broken the sacred laws by trying to void the human child's victory. The punishment was death. Sira became the leader of a new faction that wanted peace with humanity. She called them the Reformed Path. They believed that the Dominion had lost its way long ago, that conquest and destruction were not signs of strength, but signs of fear. True strength, they said, was shown by the human boy who refused to fight and the small creature who refused to stop fighting. 1 year after the trial, Sira came to the human colony with a message. She wanted to talk about peace, about trade, about a future where humans and Vel could exist together. Admiral Day did not trust her. How could he? The Vel had killed millions of humans. They had destroyed Earth's colonies. They had tried to exterminate his entire species. But Tay asked to speak at the meeting. He was 30 now, taller than before, but still young. Baduk walked beside him, fully healed, his fur gray with age, but his eyes as angry as ever. When Tay stood before the gathering of human leaders and the Vel delegation, everyone fell silent. "I am not a leader," Tay said. "I am just a boy who was too scared to fight. But I learned something on Kethro 7. I learned that hatred is easy. Fear is easy. Fighting is easy. What is hard is choosing to be different. What is hard is forgiving people who hurt you. What is hard is building something new instead of just destroying what is old." He looked at Sira. "I do not know if we can trust the Vel. Maybe we cannot. Maybe they will betray us again. But if we never try, we will never know. And I would rather try and fail than spend the rest of my life being afraid." The human leaders voted. It was close, but in the end they agreed to begin peace talks. 5 years later, the Vel Dominion no longer existed. In its place was the Allied Worlds, a federation of former Vel colonies, human settlements, and other species who had survived Vel conquest. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still distrust, still old wounds that would take generations to heal. But it was better than war. It was better than extinction. Tay became the first human ambassador to the Allied Worlds. He had not planned this. He had not wanted power or fame. But people trusted him because of what he had done. Because he had shown them that strength did not require violence. At every diplomatic meeting, every treaty signing, every important moment, Baduk sat beside him. The honey badger was old now. His muzzle was gray. His movements were slow. But his eyes were the same as they had always been, alert, suspicious, ready. One day, a young Vel diplomat asked Tay why he still kept the creature. The war was over. The trial was ancient history. Surely the animal could retire now. Tay smiled and scratched behind Baduk's ears. "He taught me everything I know about being human." The diplomat looked confused. "I do not understand." "He is not human. He is a honey badger." "Yes," Tay agreed. "He is. And he showed me that the smallest, strangest creatures can change the universe. That love is stronger than hate. That stubbornness can be a virtue. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to be what others expect you to be." He looked down at his old friend. The Vel bet their entire war on a human child. They thought they would win easily. They thought we were weak and foolish and doomed. But they did not count on Baduk. They did not understand what Earth creatures are capable of when they are protecting someone they love. Tay leaned back in his chair. They lost everything because they underestimated a honey badger. I think that is the most human story ever told. Baduk yawned, showing his worn teeth, and went back to sleep. Outside the window, stars burned in the darkness. Somewhere out there, new worlds were being discovered. New species were being contacted. The universe was large and strange and full of wonders. And in a small office, an old man who had once been a scared boy sat with an old honey badger who had once fought monsters. They had changed everything together.